Today I'm going to make a definitive Rolex tier list. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I haven't seen one on YouTube or anywhere, a comprehensive Rolex tier list. So I'm going to do it. Now I need to say a couple of disclaimers. Number one, most of you are going to disagree about something that I say today. Whether you think the Datejust should have been higher, or the Yacht-Master II shouldn't have been in the F tier, you know, things like that. You are going to disagree, and that's totally fine. This is my opinion. I'm going to leave the link to this tier list that I made in the description below, so you can make your own. And I encourage you to upload it to YouTube. It'll be cool. We can compare. It'll be a fun thing. I went through Rolex's website and cut out all these images. It was kind of a painstaking process, so I made it available. I made it on tiermaker.com. I'll give you the link to the template so you can do it yourself. But for now, we're going to look at my tier list. Number two is there are going to be examples here that represent a wider range of watches. Like, for example, if I put a white gold Daytona there, it'll represent all white gold Daytonas. Or the Yacht-Master II, it'll represent all the Yacht-Master IIs. I didn't get every single variation of every single watch. I got a total of 57 different watches here that I think is pretty comprehensive. You know, I tried to get the most popular ones. And these are all modern Rolexes. These are all Rolexes that are offered today. Alright, sorry about the cutoff on the screen, but I'll include each image that I'm using. I'll make it full screen so you can see what I'm dealing with here. So first up we have the Explorer, the new one, 36mm in stainless steel. I like this watch a lot. I like that they went back to 36mm, and it's a classic. You know, it's not the greatest watch they make, but it's so iconic that I have to put it in A. Now, its cousin, it's weird, nobody invited him to the party, cousin, is the two-tone Explorer, and we're going to go ahead and put him down in D for didn't invite. Next up, we have the Polar Explorer II. An awesome watch, a watch that I owned, not the newest one. The Polar Explorer is going to go in B. Now, why did I put it in B? Well, you can do better with Rolex. You can do better. It's better than the Black Dial, which I'm going to put in C. But there are better watches than the Polar Explorer II, 42mm. Now, if I were doing a vintage Rolex tier list, I would put the 40mm Polar in A, for sure. But the 42mm, not so much. And I own that watch, and, you know, it belongs in B. Now, next up, we're going to deal with the Oyster Perpetuals. This is the 41mm in any color, so this is what I was talking about. I'm not going to put every single color on this chart. When it comes to these OPs, you get the color that you like the most. For me, it's the green dial, but for a lot of people, it's the turquoise dial or the red dial. So this represents all of these new funky color OP41s. And I'm going to put it in B. Again, they're new, so they have a lot of hype, but all they really are colorful watches, and, you know, the hype will die down a little bit. They don't belong in A. They don't belong, you know, amongst the greats, but a solid B. There's nothing wrong with a B. Next up is the OP36. I'm also going to put it in B, and I'll tell you why. The size is up to you. I can't tell you whether or not a 41 or a 36 is better for you, so you make that decision. They're both equally in B. However, the OP34, that belongs in C, because for most men in 2021, 34mm is too small. It's an amazing watch. It's a classic. It's the classic size, but it's a little small these days. All right, next up we have the Datejust 36, the classic, the iconic Datejust 36. Now, this watch is going to encompass all the steel 36mm Datejusts, so nothing two-tone, and whatever dial you want to get is up to you. But the 36mm Datejust is going in A. That's right. It's classic, iconic, all that, all the above. Fantastic watch. Jubilee, Oyster, smooth bezel, fluted bezel, whatever you want. Great watch. Next up, we have the two-tone Datejust. Now, this is going to encompass any two-tone Datejust, whether it's 36, 41, whatever. Two-tone Datejust. It's going to go B or C. I'm not sure, to be honest. Oh, yeah. Okay, look, if the Black Explorer II is in C, then so is the two-tone Datejust. B, I think, is a little too good for it. Again, I actually like the two-tone Datejust. It's classic. It looks amazing on an older man. But, you know, it's a two-tone Datejust. What else is there to say? Next up, though, we have the Datejust 41. Now, this is a viewpoint that I certainly am going to get pushback on from some of you. I think the Datejust 41 is a little bit big. It's got no bezel. It's got a big, huge dial. It's got no bezel to take up any of that 41 millimeters, so it's pretty much all dial. And it's a very big watch. Unless you're a big guy, I think that the Datejust 36 is the classic size. However, I can't put it any further down than B. Again, I'm going to get pushback on this, that I put the 36 in A and now the 41 in B. But hey, you can make your own tier list. I'm going to leave it in the description. Now, I included the Wimbledon Datejust, whether it's two-tone, whether it's whatever configuration you can get the Wimbledon Datejust in. I personally hate the Wimbledon. I think it's very ugly. I don't like it, and it's our first watch to go in F. That's right. All right, next up is the Sky Dweller. Now, this is going to encompass the steel Sky Dwellers, whether it's blue dial, white dial, black dial, the steel Sky Dwellers, and it's going in S. That's right. It is such a complicated movement and such a groundbreaking watch that it belongs nowhere else but S. Now, next up is a rose gold Sky Dweller. It's okay, I think I'm going to put it in C. I think the Sky Dweller you got to get in steel. But that's just my opinion. I'm also going to put the yellow gold one in C. Sorry, that's my opinion. Now, next up is a gorgeous watch. I love any gold Sky Dweller on the Oyster Flex strap. I think it's such a cool watch. I wish Rolex would make more of these Oyster Flex straps for other watches, but for now we get the Sky Dweller and the Yacht-Master and the Daytona. So I'm going to put the Sky Dweller, any Sky Dweller, on an Oyster Flex in B. And last but not least, regarding the Sky Dwellers, is the two-tone Sky Dweller. That's going to go down in D. Yeah. Because you got to think it's all relative, right? Out of all the Sky Dwellers, you got the two-tone one. Ooh. Sorry. So yeah. Compared to its other options, the two-tone is the worst, and that's why it's in D. I feel like D is going to be a lot of two-tones. Next up is a fan favorite, and it's the GMTs. Now, we're starting off with an absolute banger of a watch, which is the Meteorite Dial Pepsi. I think this might be the greatest watch that Rolex has ever made, so it's going to be our first watch to go into S+. That's right. All right, next up we have a root beer. Now, I like the root beer, but it's a very weird watch. It's two-tone. It's got brown on it. I like it, but I don't think it's one of Rolex's strongest watches. I think it's very unique, and I commend anybody who buys it because, I think it takes some balls to wear a brown watch. So I'm going to put it in C. And look, C is perfectly good. C is solid. I mean, an F Rolex is still an amazing watch because it's a Rolex. We all love Rolex here, and an F Rolex is perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with an F Rolex. It's just relative to the other offerings. You have to consider where it stands. You have to consider the hierarchy and where it sits among the pack. So with that in mind, we move on to the white gold Pepsi with the blue dial. Again, relative to the option that you have with the Meteorite dial, I think the blue dial is just so underwhelming and lackluster. I mean, you're spending all this money on a white gold Pepsi. Go for the Meteorite dial, even if it takes another year of waiting, or whatever the case may be, another $5,000, whatever. If you're spending that much money on a white gold Pepsi, go for the Meteorite dial. It's literally from a different world. The blue dial, it looks exactly the same as the steel one, and it's just so underwhelming. So again, relative to its Meteorite brethren, I'm putting the blue dial Pepsi down in F. That's right, down in F. Next up, we have the solid rose gold root beer. I think I'm going to put it right next to its two-tone brother because even though I actually like the full rose gold version more, just aesthetically, they're both in C. They're both C-class watches. Now, the big boys, The Pepsi and the Batman. I thought about this. Between the two of them, I prefer the Batman, and I'll tell you why. The better Pepsi is the 16710. That's the real Pepsi. This Pepsi, it has a cold, lifeless persona about it. I don't know why. Again, for the 1000th time, this is just my opinion. Something about the Pepsi seems lifeless to me. Obviously, it's an amazing watch, but even though I have some problems with the Pepsi, and I think it's the worst of the two Pepsis, it's such an icon and it's so desired that it would be wrong of me to put it anywhere else besides S. And you know, the Batman is the same because I know, I would say it's about 50-50 about, you know, who prefers the Pepsi or who prefers the Batman. Maybe it's 60-40 in favor of the Pepsi, but they're both around the same, and they're both S-Class. We have the Day-Date 40 in white gold. Now, this is going to encompass all white gold Day-Date 40s except the olive green dial. I'll explain, and the ice blue. So for all other white gold Day-Dates, again, relative to the offerings, putting it in C. Actually, no. No, I'm going to put it in B. I think white gold is the best metal for the Day-Date. Maybe yellow gold, but it just depends on whether or not you want the flash. So all white gold Day-Dates I'm going to put in B. However, the olive green white gold Day-Date is going to go in A. I love that watch. A viewer left a comment on one of my recent videos saying, or asking me what I thought about the green dial Day-Date on the rose gold watch. I said, oh, I don't really like, you know, it's not really my thing. And he said, yeah, I don't like it either. It reminds me of a garden. You know, you've got the green dial like a plant, and then you've got that rose gold like those clay pots. And you know, once he said that, now that's all I see. So when I look at this watch, I just think of like an earthy garden in those clay pots. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like this color combination so much. I think it's way better on the white gold watch. So I'm gonna put it in D. I know a lot of people are gonna disagree with that. That the rose gold with the green dial is a very popular watch these days, but you know, this is my tier list. All right, next up is the yellow gold Day-Date. It's a classic. Again, let me just say 40 millimeters versus 36. Yes, 36 is the classic size, but whatever size is best for you. If you're a bigger guy, get the 40. If you're a smaller guy, get the 36. There's not much else to say. So this encompasses all sizes, and I'm gonna put it in A, right next to the white gold one. It's classic, and it's a great watch. Now, the ice blue platinum Day-Date. Wow, that's a beautiful watch. They have a couple different dial textures for the ice blue Day-Date, so this will encompass both of them, and I'm going to put it in S. I love that watch. I think it just looks so good. The coolness of the platinum with the ice blue. Oh my god. It's stunning watch. Alright, so now we're getting to the Daytonas, and I need to throw in another disclaimer here. I'm not a huge Daytona enthusiast. I appreciate the Daytona. I think they're beautiful watches, but they're so out of reach for me that I don't even consider them. They're not on my radar. So this is purely just my cursory judgment about the aesthetics of these watches. So it's no more than that. If you disagree, which you probably will about a few of these, you know, relax. It's not that serious. But we're starting off with some bangers. These are new, and they're the white gold and yellow gold Daytonas with meteorite dials, and on the Oyster Flex. I think these are just awesome watches. So cool. I'm putting them in A. That's right. I don't know about the yellow gold one though. I think I'd so much rather have the white gold, but yeah, okay, I guess I have to put the yellow gold in A too. Now, the Platona. Again, this is going to be a big point of contention with a lot of you. I don't really like this watch so much. I don't like the brown bezel. I don't like the color combo, brown and ice blue. It's not my favorite. I think it's a little bit overhyped these days. So I'm gonna put it, believe it or not, in B. B class. Alright, let's just get these out of the way. We're gonna go ahead and put the Panda. We gotta consider that if I put it in S, it's gonna be next to the Batman, the Pepsi, and the the steel Skydweller. And I think it's a little tiny bit above that. So I'm gonna put it in S+. I mean, come on, I have to. It's the most hyped Rolex right now. It's number one. It's kind of the king of the castle, really. The black dial, however, I'm gonna put in S. Okay, black dial in S, white dial in S plus. Even though I personally prefer the black dial, believe it or not. The white dial, I've just seen it so much. I've been bombarded with images of that watch that I'm sick of it. You know, if I were to ever own it, I would just feel so cliche. I would much rather own the black one and be a little bit of a, you know, a rebel, go against the grain a little bit. Next up, we have any two-tone Daytona. I think that even though these are probably good value in 2021, I'm gonna put them down in D. Gonna put them down in D because you have to think of it relatively. You've got all these beautiful Daytonas up here in S and S plus, and a two-tone one is just meh, you know? So that's where I'm putting that. All rose gold Daytonas, they're pretty good, you know, I can't really knock them. I'm gonna put them in B. Gonna put them in B. Yellow gold Daytonas. I don't know how many different yellow gold Daytonas there are, like full yellow gold with a yellow gold bracelet. I'm not sure. It might just be the green dial, but I could be wrong about that. If it is just the green dial, I think the green dial is really cool. The color combo with the gold and green is it just screams luxury, you know? And that's what you're going for with a watch like that. So I'm gonna put it in A. I'm gonna put it in A. Now let me pause here and just say one thing. If you look at the tier list that I have here, you might say, well, doctor, how can you have the Platona and the OP36 on the same tier? You know, the OP36 is a $6,000 watch. The Platona's a $60,000 watch, or however much it is at retail. So you're probably saying, well, how can they be on the same tier? This has nothing to do with price. It has nothing to do with material, gold or steel or anything like that. This is purely where these watches stand in the hierarchy of Rolex. So think of it like if you see one of these watches in the wild, how impressed would you be by it? It has nothing to do with price, so just to clear that up in case any of you are thinking that right now. Okay, let's continue. The white gold Daytona. This will encompass any white gold Daytona fully on a bracelet. I love this watch. I think it's really nice. You know, the white gold is subtle, and they have some really nice dial configurations like this blue one. I think this blue dial is gorgeous. So I'm putting it in A. Now, next up, we have the Yacht-Masters. The Yacht-Master family. This white gold Yacht-Master is probably my favorite watch that Rolex makes these days. I don't know, it's close. I think they hit something here. I think they really hit something. I don't know who designed this watch or who came up with the idea to put the matte ceramic bezel with the black oyster flex and just the pop of those white indices. It's absolutely gorgeous. For me personally, I'm putting this in S+. It's my favorite watch that they make. Maybe behind the Meteorite GMT, but it's close. It's a close call. However, the rose gold version of this watch, I don't like so much. It's got this dash of red on the dial, and I think it clashes a little bit with the color of the gold. It's not my favorite, so I'm gonna put it down in... yeah, again, relative. The white gold version is just so much better that I'm gonna put it down in C. That's right, down in C. All right, next up we have any two-tone Yacht-Master. Just gonna go ahead and put it straight into D and move on. Next up we have the steel Yacht-Master. Great watch. You got the blue dial or the rhodium dial. That's it. That's all they offer. This will encompass both of them. I go back and forth which one I prefer, the blue dial or the rhodium. There's a nice simplicity to the rhodium dial. It's kind of understated, but the blue dial is gorgeous with the dashes of red. It's really nice. So I'm gonna put it in B. Solid B. Next up we have the Yacht-Master II. This is going to encompass all Yacht-Master IIs. Two tones, full gold, rose gold, whatever. All Yacht-Master IIs, F-. Alright, I feel kind of bad putting it down there. Maybe I'll put it in F. We'll reserve F- for the worst of the worst. But yeah, I hate the Yacht-Master II. I think it's so gaudy. It's got a great movement, you know. It's a really technical watch, but the package that it comes in is just something else, man, with that big Yacht-Master II on the bezel. Ugh, it's so 90s, early 2000s gaudy, you know? So yeah, I really dislike the Yacht-Master II, so that's why it's down in F, almost F-. Alright, next up, we got a big one, the sub. This is a sub no date. I'm gonna put the sub no date in A. Yep. That's right. I'm going to put the sub date. I have allegiance to the sub date. It's going in S. That's right. I think between the two watches, these days, you don't get anything out of the sub no date. You used to get, with the 16610 versus the 14060, you used to get a slightly thinner watch, 2 lines on the dial. You know, the 14060M with the 2 lines, like Austin Daniels says, that is probably the most aesthetically beautiful Rolex that's ever been made. So you used to get that, but now you don't get that. All right, next up we got the Bluesy. Two-tone. I don't mind the Bluesy, but, you know, I think I'm going to put it in C. Because next to the sub and the sub date in all steel, I think it's just a couple of tiers down. And then we have the Cermet. Now, I think I'm going to have to put the Cermet in S. The reason why I put the Cermet in S is because I think it's kind of boring. The Hulk would go in S+, but the Cermet, it's a very special watch, and it's obviously hard to get and in demand and everything, but I think it's on par with the regular sub. Next up, we got the full yellow gold blue sub. I'm going to put that in A. Awesome watch, and I'm going to put the black dial one in B. I think the blue is a little better than the black. The blue and gold is just a really nice combo as well. It's just very oceany, you know? Next up we have the Cookie Monster, and again, very similar to the Cermet. I think the Smurf was way better. So I'm going to put the Cookie Monster in A. And now we have the two-tone black dial sub. I put the Bluesy in C. I can't put the black dial two-tone sub in D. I'll put it in C. I'll put it in C. Because whether you get the blue dial or the black dial, you're still getting a two-tone sub and, you know, kind of middle of the road. All right, next we have the Sea Dwellers and the Deepsea. So I'll start with the James Cameron. I think the James Cameron is S. And let me tell you why. I don't like the Deepsea or the Sea Dweller. I think they're way too big. They're practically unwearable. You'll hear people say, oh, it's actually a decent watch to wear. It's not too big. Yes, it's thick, but you can still wear it. No. You can't wear that watch. It's way too big. It's huge. It's more of a trophy piece. But still, it's very special. It's attached to a prominent filmmaker, James Cameron, and it's extremely unique. They've never done a dial like that. Now, its compatriot, the black Deepsea, I'm actually going to put that down in D. And again, it's all relative. If you get this watch over the James Cameron, I mean, what's the point? If you're going to get a Deepsea, get the James Cameron. And then we got the Sea Dweller. I think this is the SD43 because there's two. There's the Sea Dweller 44 and the Sea Dweller 43. So assuming this is the SD43 with the red text, I'm going to put it in C because it's still a Sea Dweller. It's not at the top of the pack, but at least it's not the 44 millimeter. I would put the 44 millimeter Sea Dweller down in D because the 43 is way better with the red text, way better. And last of the Sea Dwellers is the two-tone, and I'm going to put that in, I'm tempted to put it in F because here's the thing. It's the worst Sea Dweller by far. It's got no resale value, and I don't want to base this on resale value, but it's got no resale value for a reason. I mean, you can flip it for basically retail. The market has spoken on the two-tone Sea Dweller, and we don't like it. If you're going to get a Sea Dweller, if you're going to be stuck with a Sea Dweller, first of all, you should be getting a sub. It's just as capable, and it's way more wearable. But if you're going to get a Sea Dweller, get either the SD43 or the James Cameron, or the SD40 that is discontinued, but awesome watch, probably collectible in the future. But a two-tone 44 millimeter Sea Dweller, terrible watch. I mean, look, it's a Rolex, it's great, but relatively. Now, next up is the Milgauss. There's only one Milgauss in my mind, and that's the blue dial, the Z Blue. I'm going to put the Z Blue in A. It's a great watch. It's beautiful. Again, really unique, awesome color combination. It's a beautiful watch. Now the black Milgauss, again, I think you're compromising if you get the black over the blue. So I'm actually going to put the black dial down in D. That's what it is. That's the way it is. Next up is the Cellini. Someone left me a comment recently saying that the Cellini is one day going to be collectible. And I think he's wrong, but he was very passionate about it. He says, you know, it's a 39 millimeter watch. It's got a moon phase. It's got a screw down crown, which I didn't know about actually. The Cellinis have a screw down crown, which is really interesting. But they're only 50 meters water resistant. I'm sure they could handle the daily trials and tribulations of life, but it's Cellini. They get no respect, no bracelet on them. They're not sports watches, and Rolex is about sports watches. So the Cellini is going in F. The Air King, last but not least. I've made a couple of videos about the Air King recently. I don't hate the Air King. There are just things about it that annoy me. I'm gonna put the Air King in D. That's the way it is. You know, I put F minus there just in case, but I can't do it. If it's got Rolex on it, I can't give it an F minus. I made these decisions on the fly, and that's the way it's gonna be. A few of them I thought about for a little while, but most of them I just kind of went with my heart. I could probably switch a few things around here and there, and there are probably a few models that belong a little bit higher or belong a little bit lower. But this is what I'm sticking with. I'm going to stick with my guns here. So there you go. I'm going to leave the link for this tier list in the description so you can do it yourself and have fun with it. I had a lot of fun with it. You're probably going to get a totally different list than mine. But I'm sure there's going to be a few common threads, like the Panda Daytona and the Sub, and, you know, we'll probably end up in similar ballparks, but certainly there's going to be some differences with some of the less popular models. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Try it out for yourself and have fun. All right, peace out.